Full Service Radio is proudly supported and hosted by Simplecast, the easiest way for a podcast creator to publish and distribute audio on the internet. For more information, visit simplecast.com.
Full Service Radio.
Peace, everyone, and welcome to the Edible Activist Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa L. Jones, broadcasting live from the lobby of the Line, D.C. This podcast is where dynamic people of color in the food and agricultural space share their personal food journeys, passions, and perspectives that stem from the land, all exemplifying the spirit of activism in their own edible way. Let's get started. Peace, everyone. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to the Edible Activist Podcast, the best podcast on the planet. Psych. Well, not psych, but anyway. So today I have a really awesome guest. I have Tambra Raye Stevenson, who is the founder of Native Soul Kitchen and leader of an initiative called WANDA, Women Advancing Nutrition, Dietetics. I'm sorry, did I say that right? Dietetics in agriculture, I know that word, to empower women and girls to lead and create healthy communities in Africa and the diaspora. Based on the numbers, she believes we need more women and girls as key drivers in our food system by valuing their voices and supporting a pipeline and platform for new leaders from farm to fork. Now, she is inspiring a new generation of youth as the author of the Where's Wanda children's book series, which I'm so excited about, which was featured on Voice of America. Tambra is a renowned speaker, sharing her passion and knowledge of food and nutrition globally. Welcome to my show, Tambra.
Nice to have me and Little Wanda
and
today.
Little Wanda, that's right. Yeah, Little Wanda, that's our other little guest today. She's so awesome. I held Little Wanda for the second time today. First time it was over the summertime. I can't believe it because I was introduced to Wanda at Summit maybe a year ago. But anyway, I'm so glad to have Little Wanda in the building, which we're going to learn. We're going to let the audience learn about Little Wanda. You're going to share who Little Wanda is and where she's been traveling.
Most definitely.
Because this girl has a passport.
She's a globetrotter.
She's a globetrotter. I need to get on her level. So for our listeners, a few things are going to go down. You know, we do not do a show without learning a bit about our guests and their personal journey in this space. So Tambra is from Oklahoma. So I'm going to have her take us back to her coming up in Oklahoma and experiencing the farm life there. I'm going to have Tambra define divine feminine power, which is, I've heard Tambra speak on this several times, and I really want that to be part of our conversations today because it's a large part of what you do. We're going to learn how Little Wanda is inspiring girls all over the world to be food sheroes. Am I a food shero?
Of course you are.
Okay. She hated this. And lastly, we're going to educate listeners on the importance of connecting with our culture through food. Does that sound good to you, Tambra?
Amen.
All right. So, Tambra, I know you're from Oklahoma. You're a D.C. resident, but you're from Oklahoma. Would you consider yourself a country girl?
From a D.C. context, I would say so. At the time, I thought I was a city girl. It's all relative.
It's all relative, right? So take us back to growing up in Oklahoma, because I know that the farm life was a
Green Acres is the place to be.
Oh, hell. Here we go. Here we go. Take us to Oklahoma.
Most definitely. Definitely growing up in Oklahoma, number one, agriculture and oil are huge, natural gas. And so it was just part of way of life to see cows across the street, to go to the local goat farm, grab a goat, string it, know where your meat comes from. And then I love growing, plants in the backyard, eating honeysuckle. Ooh. And, for projects around biology, being able to use my front yard as a way to capture insects and tack them and name them. And
what do you mean tack them?
Well, like taxonomy, like making a bug kit that would be a part of class. Yeah,
you
exactly.
just geeked out about that.
I mean, I had cool women as my science teachers for biology and chemistry.
That's what's up.
And they made nerds like cool. And to me, that was just a natural thing to be exposed to. And so when I had the opportunity to study like botany and pollution biology and behavioral ecology for a summer in high school at Oklahoma State, it was a really great opportunity to just explore the forests and learning the Latin names of plants and everything. And it was, to me, that was life that I am able to reflect and appreciate. But I think at the same time, even though I grew up, in a Black African diasporan household, I felt over time not fully embracing that I had to almost as a baby, put the childish things to the side. Like that was part of my foundational learning, but it wasn't fully surfaced in my career development. I saw that as personal space, I guess, learning how to make fufu and stew and all these things on top of gumbo and cornbread and just beans. Cornbread and beans was a staple dish.
Did you eat it with your hands?
Not cornbread and beans,
okay.
No.
Cornbread and beans? Maybe that's just my grandmother.
Yeah. Spoons with a little bit of sugar on top.
Really?
Yeah, that was the bomb meal.
So you put the sugar in the spoon and then please break this down for
meaning
me.
you'll cook your beans with maybe a bit of meat, and it was like a bean stew almost,
okay.
But it's made of pinto beans, and then you would have your cornbread. Our cornbread, I know there's been this debate, is it sweet or not? I don't remember. Jiffy was the cornbread of choice. And it's whatever Jiffy is, that's what you taste. And then when you make your dish, you would have a bowl of beans, put a little sugar on top, break up your cornbread in it, mix it up. That was a hearty meal. I mean, now studying nutrition, I can now say that's a complete protein. You have your grains, you have your plant-based protein beans, and that was complementary. And so many cultures have that non-meat balanced protein dish that I can appreciate now, and that was our bean and grain dish that really defined the heartland, I would say. But I would say part of my story and really connecting to my history in Oklahoma really didn't surface until I left. And I say that because I didn't know part of my history. Yes, we have family reunions every year on my mom's side, but when it came to learning about the history on my father's side, my biological father's side, who I didn't grow up with, and I didn't meet him until I was 22. And so that side was very much, from Rentisville, Oklahoma, the same home of John Hope Franklin, where it's like a scene out of Roscoe Jenkins, where you go down the road, you see the sign population 66, and you I literally turned around and had to catch the main road into town, and everyone is off that main road down to the juke joint. And that juke joint is the home in September for blues jazz. Thousands of people come out to this small little town to just hear the blues. And it being also the home of one of the battles with Black cowboys and Indians, and we still to this day have active family who compete in the rodeos, nationwide. Wow. And so in the
nationwide,
one
serious.
member was here at the in Maryland, the arena that does competitions. Exactly. And so that's very much a part of my history that I didn't know. And it was really kind of full circle to come back and learn that part of it and understand, this other side of history where my two families paralleled their Oklahoma-Texas journey, and how I was able to share that story in The Cooking Gene with Michael Twitty around this history that I had agripreneurs, my great-great-grandfather, like Giles Burkhalter, being able to not only make a life for his family relocating from Corsicana, Texas, into what we know as Eufaula, Oklahoma, and make a life for his family, but also be able to provide food for the community because of everything that they grew. They were self-sufficient.
Right.
And he was able to take the business skills from, his mother's master, who was the president of a bank in Texas, and because he was a product of a rape. And so he learned from that history of being a businessman, applying that to agriculture, and really making a new life in Oklahoma with his wife, and then later his mother relocating with him to Oklahoma, where she died.
Now, from what I understand, you studied at during the summers. You would study at different schools.
Yeah, ever since, I can't remember how far back, but as early as at least by my junior year, from University of Oklahoma Medical School to the main campus, OU, studying science and engineering, knowing the path that was perfect for me, science, and then after that, Baylor Med and Rice, learning about academic medicine. That's where I got to learn about clinical nutrition research, looking at looking at isotopes of calcium and how they differentiate between the two products, like Tropicana versus Minute Maid, seeing how university studies tie into commercial products and marketing aspect, to then being able to study with Dr. Kumiyika at UPenn Med, who's like world-renowned Black nutrition epidemiologist who was in Weight of the Nation for HBO. And that's where I got to cut my teeth on understanding community nutrition, doing community interventions with Black and Hispanic communities. And, at Harvard School of Public Health, working at the time, Karen Peterson, who's now at University of Michigan, but being able to work in Dominican communities, speaking with mothers who are balancing like this new life in America while also raising family, and how does that impact their mental health and impact the food decisions that they make for their families. And so, yes, all of that ended up influencing me of appreciating public health, appreciating the communication cultural side of health, definitely elevated me out of the bone mineral rat research I was doing at OSU, but realized that all of that was intentional and needed to appreciate this pipeline of how research to policy to practice to promotion all is connected, and landed me here in DC, later on working for Health and Human Services, and then ultimately the mayor's office before I struck out in community and doing more community work.
Sorry, let me pause. You were part of the DC Food Council.
Still am.
Okay,
I'm the chair for our Food Systems Nutrition Education Working Group, where we've identified 2 key priorities around really nutrition education for all, and honing in on what kind of policies can shape and improve, funding opportunities, as well as closing the gaps on, the inequities that we see within our school systems and communities when it comes to children having access to nutrition education in order to make, more healthy little Wandas, healthy eaters, readers, and leaders. And how, East of the River gets left out, even in that regard of not having enough access to nutrition education, garden education, and the resources behind it. I know ASI is working to, help build capacity around that, but, we always need more support, especially at a city that has surplus. Why not invest it in what we know in nutrition, that those early years that we invest in nutrition, like you have double-digit return on investment and they never revert. And so what best investment for those who think like investors can really maximize and improve cognitive development to make sure that we have productive workforce, that we have children who become adults that make healthier, smarter decisions to produce healthy babies.
From Oklahoma to DC.
By plane, not wagon.
By plane. You said wagon. Two totally different geographics.
Yeah, it's like being an immigrant.
We know.
Yeah, it is. I didn't realize that. And I was like, whoa, it is different. I felt like someone who landed from Mars. I mean,
how did you deal with that? And I hate to say it like that, but
yeah.
It's too, I mean,
I think it helped the summers, like where I would travel, you know, being in Philly to Boston, then here, like bouncing around, and then abroad to Dominican Republic. Like I would say that I definitely feel more in common. Every time I travel outside the U.S., I find more commonality between me being in the Caribbean or in Africa in certain communities, like more relatable. And I think, Jessica Harris said it best at the Sweet Home Cafe book signing.
Oh, that's right. She was there
at the National Museum of the African American History and Culture, where she was making the connection of Fulani cattle to the cattle in the Midwest. And when she said that, it was just like reaffirmation for me, because that's exactly the feeling I had, because my heritage in tracing back through African ancestry, shout out, get your kid, trace your roots.
Trace your roots?
Trace your roots.
Okay. All right.
Was finding my heritage in Nigeria, Niger, the Hausa land area of the Fulanis, and understanding how when I went to Kano, Nigeria, and was able, and literally I have this iconic photo of me like in the middle of a Fulani cattle pack, and it was like, I literally stopped the little car
I want to see
and
that
said,
photo.
Get me out. I have to be in the middle of this cattle and get this photo, because it's just a few things like that were like, I felt like Spirit said, you must do this, reclaim. And knowing now my father's
it was a soul
history,
completion for you, right?
Oh, all these things, for sure. And it's that turmoil in the soul that leads to the depression if you do not do these check off things of soul purpose. And that is why this work for me and Wanda matters. And why
Tambra,
when I went back to Oklahoma, to that town of Rentsville, to see my family and this connection to cattle and livestock, like that is part of our history. I was like, oh my God, like it felt full circle of like what I felt in Kano to what I felt back in Rentsville, like this connection, like if you would, like, I wanted to tell, like, if you came with me and you went to the village outside of Kano and you sat with,
I'm there with you now. I feel it.
Like, I was speechless.
Oh my gosh.
And and I'm the first in my family to make that completion, to finally go back home. And so that is the tagline of Native Soul, but all of that was being unearthed within me to come to this point, and the work is still not over.
She said the work is still not over. For those who are just joining us, I am Melissa L. Jones with the Edible Activist Podcast, broadcasting live from the lobby of the Line, DC. And I am chatting here with Tambra Raye Stevenson, who is the creator of many things, Wanda. And we have Little Wanda with us, too. Yes. Can't forget Little Wanda. And she's also the founder of Native Soul, which we're going to talk about later today as well. But she just walked us through Oklahoma life and what it felt like, you know, not even actually embracing or knowing anything about your roots or your culture until you actually left Oklahoma and went to school and you studied nutrition, and going to Nigeria, which is, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I can't like it.
When so many people try to warn me, like, are you sure you want to go to northern Nigeria? I was like, if 15 million plus people are able to live and navigate life, I think I can too. Anacostia prepared me.
Anacostia. Good old Southeast.
Yes. Southeast love.
Oh my gosh. That is amazing. I was actually going to ask you about your experience in Nigeria. So how has Western food failed us, Tambra?
It's failed us.
And I've heard you talk, I've heard you not even talk about this. I've heard you preach about this. And because, you know, so I guess the Mediterranean diet is not the hype, right?
You know, I can't be a conspiracy theorist, but
that's okay. I want to hear the
what I the importance about being in the West is to understand how to use similar tools to support your agenda. And we've seen it best with Mediterranean diet.
Yes.
Every year, U.S. News ranks it number one. There's work behind that. Part of that is in this focus of evidence-based. You have to collect the evidence, and who does that? Academia. And so getting scientists to be able to build a group of researchers who are receiving funding from the government, from our taxes, to help address the disparities around cultural diets matter. And so my whole thing has been in the quest of demonizing soul food. We have uplifted the Mediterranean diet and say these components of this diet needs to be shared with others. A lot of times when we talk about Mediterranean diet, last time I checked, geographically, it touches North Africa. So why is that conversation not had? It typically ends up focusing the Southern European, element when you think about Italy and Greece and supporting their global food economy. If you think about it, and if you go to the food shows, it becomes very obvious of who benefits from this. Africa, which tends to get the government support to bring food entrepreneurs, ends up looking like Gambia. If you know Gambia, it just looks like a smile. Whereas Italy looks like a food mafia. So for me, it's really about, if we're trying to create an equitable food system, that conversation of how are we not just, pimping Africa to grow more Western foods,
right,
but actually supporting indigenous food, research, policy, and as well as build up the consumer demand for these foods, everything from baobab to millet to hibiscus. Like, we've seen that being integrated within Western foods. Even at Whole Foods, you can go and find products. On Amazon, you can find products. But how many of our communities have been able to reconnect to their divine right? If we were to make a proclamation or a Bill of Rights, you should have a right to your indigenous foodways. And when you do not, that's an abomination. And there needs to be penalties placed for that on who intentionally separates you, when we know that as we're in the midst of the 400th commemoration of the transatlantic slave trade, we were brought for the purposes of agriculture.
Yes.
And building food systems for other people.
Absolutely.
And so in making a full circle back, in order for little Wanda to do the work that she does, to be that healthy eater, reader, and leader, she needs to have access to the very foodways that her ancestors were denied. And that means knowing that knowledge, being able to use that knowledge to become a healthy food leader, an entrepreneur, a policymaker, a researcher, a writer, and build a whole community that is now healthy, sustainable, thriving, that's centered around her culture. Now, we know we have some problems of what is that culture because of the intentional blending and, let's just say, mulattoization of our communities. Yeah, I just made up a word.
That's
Name
okay.
it and claim it.
And
so it's important to understand that just like we know rape has been used as a war tool, same thing occurred to our communities. And if we were to embrace that part that has been denied, our food is a part of that conversation. And that's why this post-Wakanda conversation is important, because I hope that we can get past the dashiki, get woke with Wanda, and understand that we are no longer needing to be the base of the pyramid. We need to start leading. And if you want to get to that level of leading, you just either create your own space, which is what we've done. I don't believe in hostile takeovers. That's someone else's, prerogative. But do what you need to do to be right with your spirit and fulfilling your God-given purpose on this earth, and correct the wrongs, because they need to be corrected.
Alexia, where's my fan to say an amen? An amen. I need a fan. Like, amen. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Perfect Day, produced by Artists Authentic. For more of Authentic's work, visit allornothingstudios.com. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Edible Activist Podcast. This is Melissa L. Jones, broadcasting live from the lobby of The Line, D.C. I have been chatting here with an awesome guest who is no stranger to my world and many of your food spaces, Tambra Raye Stevenson, who is the founder of Native Soul Kitchen, which we're going to learn a little bit about the second half of this show, and the leader of WANDA, Women Advancing Nutrition, Dietetics, and Agriculture. We also have Little Wanda, y'all. And you're gonna meet little Wanda. I actually posted a photo of Little Wanda, so you'll see her. Maybe you'll meet her in person. She talks.
All you need is already within. Will you be a healthy eater, reader, and leader? My superpower is African foods.
I didn't know Little Wanda spoke.
Yes, girl. She's the leader of the movement.
Play. And she has a passport, y'all. Okay. I'm not mad. So, for those who are just joining us, Tambra, y'all need to replay the show when this is over. But Tambra walked us through her upbringing in Oklahoma and some of the agrarian life she experienced in growing up in that town and studying at different schools and studying nutrition, working with renowned nutritionists and professors, and not really connecting to the African culture until she left Oklahoma, and just how it was so much of a culture shock coming over to here, and she felt like she was on Mars essentially. I can't even comprehend how that would feel, honestly. But anyway, so, and I asked the question of, has Western food failed us? And Tambra went in. I was over here fanning myself, So anyway, for those who have been listening, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your support. Tambra, who is Lil Wanda?
So Little Wanda is all about decolonizing our diet and reclaiming our food ways and restoring our roots and reconnecting to our divine feminine power. And she's the little girl in all of us that we wanted to be, who would turn all of our weakness into strength. She's caring, she's compassionate, and she's all about food for the culture. And she's conscious. And it's important that our children, whether it's boys who need to see women and girls in empowerment roles, or girls to know that all they need is already within, like Little Wanda knows, be able to know that there's a path into the food system that is beyond a line cook and a farmer, but to own the farm, to own the system, and to know that you can be everything from a food writer, a researcher, a historian, a policymaker, a food media talent. So many careers are out there in the food system that I and so many never knew and were exposed to. But through Little Wanda and her journey, she meets the big Wandas who are all about bringing that Black girl magic to the food system, whether you're in Africa or you're in the diaspora, and understanding that those foods are our cultural heritage right, and they are the foods that will heal us and nourish us and give us the strength that we need, just like provisions for our purpose-driven path.
I love it. How do you define divine feminine power?
Number one, it goes back to understanding who is your God, and to understanding that our Creator has divinely put within us the ability to create. And that creation process, we fully see that in our women, and just in the whole process of being able to give birth. And whether that's a birth of a baby, a birth of an idea, or a birth of a movement, the ability to create is divinely you and feminine. And that is something that we have to fully embrace. And so, again, in a patriarchal framework, we are tend to be told or shown that everything about you, woman, is a weakness. But we know from those who've had boards with women that was their unique value that they were able to offer. In the divine feminine power, we think in a holistic framework. We think comprehensively. We do not think in a linear mindset. We are intuitively connected to the divine source that is a source of abundance, is never lacking or limited in its thinking and doing and being. And it always knows that everything is divinely ordered in steps, and we trust the process. And that is the wisdom along the sheroes journey. The work of, Shakti leadership really speaks about this understanding of masculine, feminine roles and thinking about leadership. It's very much in line with the work of Joseph Campbell around cultural mythology of the hero's journey. And I thought the hero's journey was my journey until reading Shakti leadership and realizing that the feminine pathway of leading our own purpose within, her goal is wisdom. It's not power. And to understand that wisdom is more richer, is more beneficial than any riches left. You can squander riches. You cannot squander wisdom. That wisdom you're able to apply and continue to multiply more riches if used in the right way. That's the key difference for me of understanding the divine feminine power. It's in search of the wisdom within that is connected to our ancestors who has already told us what we need. And from following their story and journey, we are able to reconnect to our divine source of abundance.
So everything is here.
It's all there. It's
all
in the
there.
seed of our soul, which is locked in our hearts. And that's why when we see this issue of heart disease being the number one killer of not only Americans, but women of African descent, is to understand what purpose within you are you holding back that you're not unleashing that was already ordained for you, but you've chose to listen to the false self and not honor your true self. That is what I had to get a PhD in me to understand in order for me to be able to unlock and show anyone else a path. In order to be a leader, you have to be able to go into the deepest part of you and work that out like spiritual surgery before you can even ever try to give advice to anyone else on what they need to do. If you haven't done it for yourself, heal the healer, how can you begin healing others? Ooh. Let alone facilitate the process. So to me, that's part of the work.
You have a very dynamic and awesome book associated with it is Little Wanda.
Most definitely.
And I love the book, even just knowing about the book, that she finds cures for different ailments, right?
Yeah.
Talk more about that.
So
in different countries, like you
definitely
spotlight a different country, and and there's someone who has a disease or a health ailment, and she finds a cure through food.
The best framework when making the Where's Wanda book series was I had learned about this little Belgian character named Tintin, and he traveled around the world, and through really his racist eyes, he saw people of color in a very negative light with his little dog. And until I was in New York and went to the Strand bookstore and learned about, not the Strand, it was another bookstore, but a UNICEF colleague had shared this story, I was like, oh my God, I need to buy Tintin in the Congo. And so I keep it as a reminder of that Little Wanda is everything that Tintin is not. And it was to be able to see a world through the eyes of a Black girl and understanding how the world looked differently through that. And for me, that meant looking at our communities in the light of positivity, that we have the resources to heal us. We didn't need to go outside of ourselves. That the women folk who are seen as the lowest common denominator actually are the ones with the wealth and the riches to help heal us. And to understand through her journey of meeting with the women in the food system that they have all the wisdom that Little Wanda needs to help go back and heal her community. And everything is in that self-contained world of Wanda, of recognizing that if we dream a new world, what would it be? And for me, that meant everything I didn't fully learn and know within the traditional field of nutrition, but from an ancestral lens, it's through little Wanda's journey. And so that means our African foods are our medicine.
Right.
Our women are our healers. Whether you're from farm to health, you all have a purpose collectively. And that is to ensure that you're the village that helps us and navigates us. So every book is her going to a new country. This one is on Nigeria. She finds the cure for her nana's diabetes by understanding the role of Salamatu Garba, who's a real life women farmer who owns a cooperative in Kano, Nigeria, and has a restaurant and a daycare center and supporting the growth and development of her community. And it's the women who are key and center to that survival. Then she hops to Ethiopia, where she learns about the traditional foods of Ethiopia. We went there just last October to meet with a Wanda woman there, who is dynamic. Her name is Hawat, and she is teaching women nutrition and learning about how to make their money work for them and make proper meals for their babies to thrive. And so these are our everyday food sheroes who are making a difference in their communities, and the children in those communities need to know that they have their own leaders who are helping their communities to be inspired to be just like them. We don't need a white God complex coming down upon us to look up for all things that we need.
Hello.
That was already within. And that's why this story matters.
So can I read just a few lines from the book? So the doctor told me I have sugar, says Nana. You mean diabetes? Time to change what we eat, says Mama. Where did I go wrong? Asks Nana. Wanda is sad to hear the news. So just so you all know, Wanda is peeking around the wall as she's listening to Nana and Mama talk to each other. While asleep, little Wanda's papa appears in her dreams. My little Wanda, you can help Nana by swapping her Western foods with our African heritage foods. Remember, the strength of our people comes from strong food, says Papa. Wow. There's so much. Wow.
And that first story,
just in those few lines,
was important to me because my father is deceased back in 2007 in a head-on collision, and my nana did die from complications of diabetes. And I was that curious child who wanted to be the Surgeon General, and I would go around spouting factoids in my family, and I would just have reactions like, I'm gonna die fat and happy. And I didn't know until grad school we call that fatalistic mindset. And that really irked me, and it was really about turning my pain of not being able to help my family into my purpose.
Wow. First of all, we're going to get to where we can get the book because we want to make sure that everyone can get access.
IamWanda.org.
She makes it so simple. She makes it so easy. Really quickly, we have just a few more moments. Mm-hmm. Can you give me 60 seconds of what Native Soul is as we're talking about food? And I've had the wonderful pleasure of experiencing Tambra's food experiences, as I would call them. And the one thing that I like about the gatherings that you put on is that everybody's hands on deck, you know, like you do this, you cut the pineapple, you arrange the salad, like it's, and I remember the last event that you did, it was like an all women's event, and it was just everyone in the kitchen coming together, and you giving direction, but it's everyone in harmony and just happy and just loving and just wholesome food. But tell us a short, give us a short snippet of Native Soul.
Yeah, Native Soul was really kind of like the preface to Wanda. It was really grounding in that foundation of the acronym, which is nourishing authentic traditions and spirituality, oneness and love, but also taking, on Native African traditions, including, sustainability, organic and local. And to me, it's soul to soul work.
Yes. And
it takes a village to nourish little Wanda. And that village started with Native Soul principles and traditions around it, that our ability to reclaim our heritage through our food was so vitally important to this conversation, because it's something that's very tangible and very, visual in its ability to connect and heal us in a way that we can grasp easily.
That's awesome. Look out for, Tambra's going to tell you where to find her on social media. So we're going to wrap up really quickly. But before I even go into all that, Tambra, can we just say Black History is every day? Not this February, every day?
365.
365, every day. Not every day.
Some people just want to start it all over and just start at Juneteenth, which I'm cool with too as well.
Exactly.
Because we didn't get the message down south until June. So we understand the importance of Juneteenth.
Where can we find you, your work, Little Wanda? You told us your book, but give us all that good information.
Yeah, no
for our
problem.
listeners.
Well, number one, we are at iamwanda.org. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can connect at iamwanda.org as our social media handle. I'm on all those social media handles too at Tambra Raye, TAMBRARAYE. And when it comes to working with Wanda, part of our focus for this year is really helping to build that community, build that content that people have been asking for, be able to get their hands on a little Wanda doll. We will be having a crowdfund campaign for people to be able to pre-order and make her happen for this year. And also, we do Wanda workshops. We've worked with Ethiopian Community Center, Alpha Kappa Alpha, Jack and Jill coming up, of being able to bring more access to cultural nutrition education with Wanda through her story-based learning. And also, we look to gamify the work that we do as well around Little Wanda's journey.
Everything she said, y'all. Everything she said. All right. So, Tambra, are you ready for my rapid fire?
Sure.
All right. So what is your favorite leafy green?
Hail to the kale.
Hail to the kale. Kale's all right with me.
I
Kale,
do like
yeah.
moringa too. I will have to say that.
Yeah, but sometimes you can't eat too much of that stuff because
Yeah.
your stomach starts rumbling. It will wipe you out. But I'm just saying, I'm keeping it all the way real.
Just drink it like a tea then.
Tea. I love the moringa seeds too. I know that's not technically, that's not leaf, but I like the moringa seeds.
If it's on Amazon, it's legal.
Sweet, spicy, sour, or salty?
Because of the westernization is sugar, sweet, but I do like spicy.
Spicy, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite fruit?
Mangoes. Really good mangoes.
Love me. Like really good. Like the juicy, really
Yeah.
ripe. You
Almost
cut
like
it.
orange.
And yep. Get my hand messy. Yeah, all that.
No yellow ones.
What?
No.
That's not good for life. What's cooking in your pot these days? Literally.
Hibiscus. Bottling hibiscus.
I forgot to mention.
Black love.
So Tambra is the hibiscus queen.
Yes.
I forget that.
I love hibiscus.
Ooh, we gotta have
maybe
some.
because I know I have heart, my issues in my family. But yeah, anything that helps heal the heart, reduce stress, being broke, black, blessed in America is so important.
Broke, black, and blessed in
but
America.
not broken. But
not broken.
That's
There is
a
a difference.
key piece.
But you promote hibiscus hard, though. I
love hibiscus.
I totally forgot about that.
Yes.
One way someone can channel their inner edible activism.
Make your plate reflect your values.
Tweet. Okay. Well, thank you again, Tambra. It was a pleasure having you on my show. I always appreciate people coming in my space. I think you're an absolutely dynamic person. This girl is a world traveler. She speaks on many platforms. She can probably teach me a thing or two about speaking, but she's dope. Please check her work out. We'll be looking out for the crowdfund campaign. We need to support. We got to support. Tambra is on her grind. There's no play.
And a Wanda Academy will be coming to you online.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
All right now. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We're here live on Full Service Radio every Wednesday at 11 a.m. and you can access each episode after it airs on iTunes and Spotify. You can also catch today's show on fullserviceradio.org, which is also home to some really other cool podcasters. So check them out. Follow me at Food Talks DC on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Are you an edible activist? Come join me on the show. I would love to feature you. Just shoot me a DM on Instagram. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Peace.
Thanks for listening to this program on Full Service Radio, broadcasting and recording from the Line Hotel in Adams Morgan, Washington, D.C. Full Service Radio programming can be accessed live and archived on fullserviceradio.org. Our talk programming is available on most podcast apps like iTunes and Stitcher, and our DJ sets are available on mixcloud.com/fullserviceradio. Full Service Radio features over 30 weekly shows and over 50 local hosts covering every topic imaginable. If you want to be a guest or get involved, email us at info@fullserviceradio.org. Follow us on Twitter at FullServiceRDO, on Instagram and Facebook at Full Service Radio. Thanks for listening.